What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down some of the best quarterback throwing mechanics tips, okay? So we're going to be talking about how quarterbacks can improve their upper body throwing mechanics to avoid arm pain, shoulder pain, elbow soreness, and just any kind of pain in their upper body and with their throwing arm. Then we're going to be talking about some quarterback lower body mechanics to help you guys get more velocity and more pop and more distance on your throws. So we're going to be showing a good example and then a bad example, and we're going to be kind of comparing and contrasting both. So I hope this video helps you guys out. But also, fellas, if you're a QB and you want to get some work in with us this offseason, we're traveling out to 4 more states across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So first on the list, we're coming out to Dallas, Texas. Then we're going to Nashville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Utah, and then Los Angeles, California. We've already been out to 7 other states, so these are the last 4 on the tour this year. So if you guys want some more information on that, want to work with us, and you're in one of those states or close to it, check out that very first link below. Let's get started with this video. So now, first things first we want to talk about is this backstroke for the quarterback. So how are you supposed to take the ball back? So one of the common misconceptions that a lot of quarterback coaches teach, really there's 2 things, is that all their quarterbacks have to throw the exact same, which is not the case. Every quarterback has a different body type, every quarterback. No 2 humans are the exact same. Some people might throw it similar, but you should never try to mimic a quarterback's throwing mechanics perfectly. You want to try to take bits and pieces that work for you, but we want to find the most efficient ways possible that work for your own body mechanics. And a lot of people will like to say that every quarterback should lift the ball up to 90 degrees, which are both completely wrong. The key spot that we want to get to, this throw here from Joe Burrow, I'm going to play it full speed, is we want to get to this backstroke position. We want to get to, some people call it an opposite L. It does not have to be a perfect L, but we want to get to some kind of position here before I get to that vertical 90, right? They called this a vertical 90, and they called this the opposite L. Those are like the 2 industry terms, right? Now, this opposite L, I don't like saying that term. I like saying backstroke because not every quarterback gets to this perfect L. You look at guys like Tom Brady, they'll have the nose of the football pointed downward. You look at guys like Patrick Mahomes, they hold that ball a little bit lower. You look at guys like Aaron Rodgers, they're a little bit tighter than Joe Burrow is with this angle. But see, the main key is that you take this ball back and you're in this backstroke as the front foot is coming down. Now, the reason why we want to get to this spot is because your rotator cuff when you throw works in 2 parts. You're either going to go from opposite L up to vertical 90, or you're going to go straight to vertical 90 and that ball is going to dip behind your head. There's always 2 sequences. It's either L to L or 90 to dip behind the head. Now, how many of you probably have that problem of the football dipping behind your head? I know a lot of people do. I had the same exact problem because I was always coached to lift the ball straight to this. Now, we're going to show an example of a younger high school quarterback doing this here in a second. But when you guys can get to L here, that hip rotation, because your front stride gets down, is what will bring you up to that vertical 90. Joe Burrow, when he gets to here, his hips are rotating through. That back hip is starting to come through before the football does. So when that ball dips, his hips are already starting to rotate. And the hips, the weight transfer from the lower half is what makes that throw. As a QB, you should never be thinking about, okay, I'm getting the ball up to 90. You should be thinking about a backstroke, and naturally that hip rotation from your lower half, that transfer of your weight, is what will bring the ball up to 90. This needs to be a natural habit, but you have to get to that backstroke position first. I hope that makes sense. So fellas, you guys have probably seen like Dak Prescott do that hip drill before. That's essentially what he's working on. He's working on that weight transfer being separate from his shoulders, from his backstroke, so it could bring him up to 90, right? So when he goes here, he's transferring his weight from his lower half, but as he's shifting that weight from back leg to front leg, his shoulders go back and that ball gets to that backstroke position. So now when he starts to actually rotate through, the hip rotation brings that up to 90, and that is what takes stress off the elbow and what takes stress off the shoulder. When you dip that ball behind your head because you're lifting straight to 90, that is so much pressure on your elbow, that is so much pressure on your shoulder, and chances are your shoulders are beating your hips on the throw, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So let's play this thing full speed. So Burrow does a great job of getting to that backstroke position, and again, it does not have to be perfect. Okay, so now this QB right here, and again, high school guy, nowhere near the level of Joe Burrow. Not many high school players are. Probably none are, right? So again, you still have work to do, and the good news is about high school players, if you're a youth quarterback and you have this problem, there's a lot of time left for you to fix it, right? But when he goes to make this throw, I want you to see how he kind of dips the ball behind his head, right? We could play this again one more time, but so many quarterbacks have this problem. We get a lot of emails. We get a lot of people on our website who send in their film that have this problem. And the main thing is when he goes to throw, the backstroke position that he's getting to right here is not efficient because he has like two hands on the ball still. So it turns into more of a lift. But you see when that front foot gets down, he's at that 90, that vertical 90 that we talk about. So when you're at that vertical 90, like we said, your rotator cuff works in two parts. You lift it to 90, what's going to happen? Because now your hips are going to rotate through. But when your hips rotate through, your rotator cuff is getting to that second part. So you dip the ball behind your head like this. So a lot of QB coaches will be like, hey, you're dipping the ball behind your head. Stop doing that. It's like, how do I stop doing that? And it's about getting more of a backstroke and getting more of a sequence. So this puts a ton of stress on the elbow, ton of stress on the shoulder. A lot of QBs who have elbow problems, that's usually what happens. And you see the coaches are looking at the ball. They're not watching the quarterback. They're not trying to fix his mechanics. That is the dang problem right there. Who cares if this kid could throw the ball 80 yards downfield? I could care less if he could hit the goalpost from back there. I want him to have a good throwing mechanics so he can be efficient. It's all good when you look good in t-shirt and shorts, but I want to look good when the pads come on, and I want to look good for a college coach. So we need to fix these habits, right? So when you go back with this ball, instead of you stepping and being at 90, when that front foot gets down, maybe we should be at a backstroke position. Maybe we should be at this like opposite L. Doesn't have to be perfect, but give me some kind of backstroke. So that great hip drive that he has, that weight transfer that he has, can bring the ball up from the L to the 90-degree position. And that takes stress off the shoulder and the elbow, and you're throwing more with your hips, not with your arm. That is how the upper body mechanics should work, fellas. Everybody is different, but you need to make sure that you get to some kind of backstroke, and the hip drive rotation will get you up to the vertical 90 to take pressure off the arm. That's how you get rid of the dip behind your head. That's how you get rid of the pressure. That's how you get rid of this position. Because you see when he throws, back leg is extended, his shoulders end up coming through before the hip, he's dipping out of there with his head just simply based on his throwing sequence because he doesn't get to the backstroke. That is something you need to fix, and that is something quarterback coaches need to be paying mindful attention to. Let's play this thing again one more time. Again, kick and rip the ball for sure, but we want to be efficient. This is not sustainable. We need to be sustainable with my mechanics so I can throw for longer periods of time and make those longer throws, like make those deeper throws consistently back-to-back days. Because when you think about NFL players, what their schedule is like, they're throwing hundreds of throws every day, almost just about every day, right? But they have great mechanics. They throw that ball with their legs, their hips. They're not throwing with their arm, and that's due to a great throwing sequence. Okay, so now let's talk about the lower body, right? Because now we talk about the upper body, but also we mentioned it slightly with the first clip with Joe Burrow, is you got to have great weight transfer, right? You got to be able to transfer your weight from your back leg to your front leg to get your hips to rotate through. Now, we're looking at this story from Dak Prescott, and I mainly want to pay attention to where his back leg is located. So a lot of QB coaches, the old way of saying things is you want your base to be super wide, right? You want your feet to be just outside your shoulders. And this is something that I used to teach. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, maybe like 3 years ago, old school way of teaching things was have a wide base because you saw a lot of people do it. You saw Drew Brees do it. You saw Tom Brady do it. But the game constantly evolves. Throwing mechanics constantly change. There's always going to be a more efficient way to do things. I'm sure in 2 years from now, we'll be talking about different intricacies of the throwing motion. But one of the key things that you see a lot of quarterbacks emphasize more is hip rotation, weight transfer. And so this back foot ties in a lot to that. So I know if you play quarterback, especially high school guys, you've probably heard the term weight transfer thrown out there a lot. Like, hey, you want to make sure you're transferring your weight, right? So what does that exactly mean? That means you want to take this weight from your back leg and you want to shift it to the front leg. You take the weight here, shifting forward, because that shift from your like quad, you take like the 70% you have here and shift it to the front foot to 90, that will naturally get your hips to rotate through if your back foot is in a good position. So what do I mean by good position? I mean your back foot needs to be about like maybe like a half a yard underneath your back shoulder. Because when that position is there and you go to transfer your weight and that front foot can get down, that will get your hips to go. But I bring back what I was saying about having a wide base. If your base is super wide and you go to transfer your weight, you physically can't rotate at your hips. You guys could try it right now. Stand up, have your feet super wide, and try to rotate at your hips. your hips kind of lock out. Now, if you close your back foot down and you try to rotate through, it's a lot easier to rotate through. That's pretty much the gist of it. So when you can get to that position, that is what will help you go from that L, like you see Dak Prescott, to 90 right there, get to that vertical 90, but also get you more velocity. Because to get velocity on the throw, it's not about the arm. It is about the weight transfer and it is about the hip rotation, fellas. So I'm going to play this thing full speed one more time. So when he does this, again, great example of the back leg being underneath, quick stride, and letting his hips make this throw. So now, here he's got a quarterback at a camp, I believe. And this is the problem with camps usually. Because camps, they don't teach people. They will just let you run through some drills and throw 80 footballs and then call it a day. And that's not how you get better, I'm sorry. Some guys might do well in that kind of atmosphere because they don't necessarily need, the mechanical attention of us looking at like, hey, okay, make sure your back foot's in this place because they've done it. They've repped it before. Maybe they're going to be better off getting rep work. And that's cool and that's fine. And you're going to get a ton of reps. But in a setting like this, like, dude, there's some quarterbacks that need those little details because that's how you improve. So let's watch this QB here. And again, the two high school guys that I show in this video, I'm not trying to bag on them. I'm trying to help them. Like if you can't take constructive criticism, then you probably shouldn't play the quarterback position because when you get into a college film room and you make a mistake, you will get berated for 15 minutes. Like that's how it goes. And they will make it personal too because their job is on the line. If you don't get it done and they don't win games with you, they don't put food on the table because they will get fired. And so you are going to get berated in a college film room, so get used to constructive criticism. So when this QB throws here, I want you to pay attention to his back foot. So when he goes to make this throw, not much weight on that back foot. And you see the ball die, right? So ball dies. He throws this thing and it dies because there's not much weight transfer. So when he goes to throw, this is a common problem. That back foot, where's that back foot? Outside his shoulder. So guess what? When your back foot is super wide, you have too much weight on the front foot. So when your back foot has when it doesn't have much weight, your front foot has all the weight, there's not much weight to transfer, right? So if you don't have weight on the back foot to transfer, then you don't have any power on the ball because you've essentially already transferred your weight. So what happens when you throw is that your back foot's going to trail behind. Your hips are not going to rotate. Your shoulders are going to be making this throw. And you see what he does here. He lifts to the vertical 90. That's usually the lift of the vertical 90 and the back foot being too wide is usually a problem that everybody has. Because he knows if he went to this backstroke position, there would be really nothing on it to have him get up to the vertical 90 because there's no hip rotation because there's not enough weight on the back foot. So that back foot just needs a little bit more weight. If you could switch this, if he could have the amount of weight that he has on his front foot, on his back foot when he is getting ready to throw, that is going to give him so much more pop on the ball. But because the back foot is too wide, it's not underneath his back shoulder here, he doesn't have that transfer. And that transfer is what causes this throw to die in the ground. So fellas, if we want more velocity, we want more consistency, make sure that that back foot is underneath that back shoulder. Let's transfer that weight to get my hips to rotate through. Make sure you are emphasizing these things if you were on the younger side. If you're a younger quarterback, you have to think about your backstroke. You have to think about the weight transfer. You got to think about where your leg is located because those things, fellas, that is what you can consistently rep out on a daily basis. You don't even have to throw to work on those things. You just have to rep it, and rep it. So when it's time to get on the field, you could work the more complex throws, the off-platform throws, the throws on the run to build. Okay, fellas? So again, hope this video helped you guys out. I really appreciate everybody watching. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. It's always great to hear from you guys, and it's always great to hear feedback from you as well. And again, fellas, if you want to come out to one of our off-season training camps where we'll actually coach you up, train you on every rep, and you're going to be getting constructive criticism every single time, check out that very first link in the description below. We're coming out to Dallas, Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles, California. So check out that very first link below, fellas. We really appreciate everybody who's come out to our camps in the past. I'll see you guys next time.